Jax's revenge domain.
My brother-in-law fired me for lacking vision, but he didn't know the safety system he just sold to General Motors for $22 million was registered under my personal LLC, not Whitfield Manufacturing. Garrett Whitfield sat behind my father-in-law's old oak desk, the one I'd helped move into that office 18 years ago when we expanded the main building. He had his laptop open, probably working on the press release about my departure. Real efficient that one, Rod, we're restructuring the engineering department. Fresh blood. The board thinks your approach is too conservative for where we're heading. I adjusted the wrench in my tool belt. I understand. He looked surprised, like maybe he expected me to argue. Remind him I'd been keeping Whitfield Manufacturing running since before he knew what a torque spec was. HR will process your paperwork today. You can clean out your office this afternoon. I nodded, stood up, walked toward the door. Rod, I turned back. No hard feelings, right? Business is business. I looked at him sitting in that chair wearing a $300 tie, hands softer than my 18-year-old son's. No hard feelings, Garrett. He had no idea what he'd just done. My name is Rod Patterson. I'm 51 years old, been working steel since I was 14, spent 8 years in the Marines before coming home to Ohio. Whitfield Manufacturing was my late father-in-law's company, built in 1954 when Detroit was hungry for quality parts. Richard Whitfield had run those machines for 40 years, and when I married his daughter Linda in 2005, he brought me into the family business. That was before Linda's younger sister Dana married Garrett, fresh out of Stanford Business School. Before Richard got sick and decided the company needed modern leadership, before I became employee instead of family. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't bitter about Dana marrying well. She deserved happiness. And when Linda died 3 years ago, Dana and Garrett were there for me and my son Brady. Family's family, but family's also supposed to mean something. I joined Whitfield Manufacturing in 2006 right after my Marine discharge. Started on the shop floor because Richard said everyone in the family needed to understand the business from the ground up. Worked my way through every department: machining, welding, assembly, quality control. By 2012, I was chief engineer, the guy who solved the problems nobody else could figure out. The company had grown from 45 employees to 180 annual revenue, from $8 million to $35 million. We supplied safety systems to Ford, GM, Chrysler, anybody who needed their workers going home in one piece every night. That's where Safety Lock came from. I'd started developing it in 2019, right after Linda's cancer came back, working in my garage at night while she slept, trying to keep my hands busy so my mind wouldn't eat itself. The system was elegant, sensors that could predict equipment failure 94.3% of the time, 12 seconds before catastrophic breakdown. Enough warning to shut down safely every single time. I'd built it piece by piece on my own equipment, tested it with my own materials, filed the patents under Patterson Engineering LLC, my personal company I'd set up years earlier for consulting work. Everything legal, everything documented, everything bulletproof. When I brought Safety Lock to work in 2020, Richard was interested. We talked about licensing, maybe working out a revenue share. Then Richard passed in early 2022, and suddenly Garrett was running things. Garrett didn't want to talk licensing. He wanted to own it. This is company property, Rod. You developed it as part of your role here. I developed it at home on my own time with my own materials. You're a salaried employee. Everything you create belongs to Whitfield Manufacturing. I didn't argue, just nodded and said I understood. What Garrett didn't understand was that I'd spent 8 years in the Marines dealing with classified systems. I knew how important proper documentation was. Safety Lock was registered with the U.S. Patent Office under Patterson Engineering LLC. Filed in March 2020, notarized, time-stamped, absolutely bulletproof. For 4 years, Whitfield Manufacturing had been selling Safety Lock to clients, building the company's reputation on technology that legally belonged to me. I never said a word, just watched, documented every sale, every installation, every dollar of revenue Garrett attributed to his strategic vision. The irony wasn't lost on me. Garrett kept talking about synergies and optimization, scalability, and best practices. MBA words for things we'd been doing for decades. Meanwhile, the technology driving his digital transformation was something I'd welded together in my garage while my wife was dying. Last month, Garrett landed the big one. General Motors wanted to acquire Safety Lock outright, not license it, buy it. The number they were discussing was $22 million. Garrett was over the moon, started wearing even more expensive suits, talking about liquidity events and strategic exits. He also started looking at me differently. I was the chief engineer, the guy who knew every specification in Safety Lock's code, the guy who'd have to be involved in any technical due diligence, the guy who, according to my original employment agreement, was entitled to 15% of any intellectual property sale. 15% of $22 million is $333 million. I heard them talking about it last Tuesday. Garrett's office door was cracked, and sound carried better than he realized. Patterson's going to want his cut, Garrett said. The employment agreement your father signed has that IP clause, came David Morris's voice, our general counsel. We need to void it. How? Find cause. Terminate him before the deal closes. He's been here 18 years, David. What cause? Performance issues. Resistance to innovation. Rod, you wouldn't understand the big picture here, but we're moving toward next-generation solutions. His approach lacks scalability. Garrett laughed, lacking vision. I like that. I stood in that hallway for maybe 30 seconds, listening to them calculate how much money they'd save by throwing me away. Listening to my brother-in-law, the man who'd married my wife's sister, who'd eaten Sunday dinner at our table for 12 years. Talk about me like I was a line item on a spreadsheet. He won't fight it, Garrett said. He's got Brady starting college next year, needs the reference. He'll take severance and disappear. And if he doesn't, he's 51 years old in a young man's industry. Who's going to hire him? Moving forward, we need people who understand digital transformation, not guys who still think with their hands. That was Tuesday at 3:15. By Thursday at 2:30, I was sitting in his office listening to him tell me I lacked vision. I signed where they told me to sign. Let security walk me to my toolbox. Packed 18 years of work into a cardboard box while my coworkers looked away. Only person who made eye contact was Jenny Walsh from accounting. Slipped me a thumb drive as I walked past her desk. Thought you might want to see what promises he's been making to GM, she whispered. I tucked it in my jacket pocket. Thanks, Jenny. Garrett thought he'd removed an obstacle, cleared the path to his $22 million payday. What Garrett didn't know was that General Motors has very thorough lawyers, and due diligence on a $22 million acquisition involves checking who actually owns what you're buying. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for a long time, rain hitting the windshield, watching people I'd worked with for nearly 2 decades head home to their families. Then I pulled out my phone and called Tony Walsh. Tony and I had served together in Iraq, 3rd Marines. He'd gone to law school after discharge, specialized in intellectual property. Hey, jarhead. Didn't expect to hear from you on a Thursday. They fired me, Tony. Pause. The safety lock thing, GM acquisition. They didn't want to pay my commission. Did they check the patent registration? No. They assumed it was company property because it's been in their systems for 4 years. Tony laughed, not mean just the laugh of a man watching someone step on a landmine they planted themselves. When's due diligence start? I checked Jenny's thumb drive, plugged it into my phone. According to Garrett's emails, GM's legal team would begin document review Monday morning. Then you've got about 72 hours before your brother-in-law has a very bad week. I drove home to the house Linda and I bought in 2008, the one we'd planned to pay off by retirement. Brady was at his girlfriend's place. Just me and Rex, my 6-year-old German Shepherd, who knew something was different. The moment I walked through the door at 4:30 on a Thursday instead of 700. I poured 3 fingers of Jack Daniels, sat on the back porch, Rex at my feet. Friday morning I woke at 05:30, old habit. Made black coffee, sat at the kitchen table, started making calls. First call, Tony Walsh. I want to file a cease and desist. Whitfield Manufacturing is selling technology they don't own. I'll have it drafted by noon, certified mail, return receipt. They'll have it Monday morning. Perfect. Second call, Michael Torres, Senior Acquisitions Manager at General Motors. I'd met him at an industry conference 2 years back. Rod Patterson. Been a while. Michael, I need to tell you something about the safety lock acquisition. I explained everything, the patent registration, the development timeline, the documentation. Michael listened without interrupting. You're saying Whitfield Manufacturing doesn't own Safety Lock? I'm saying I own Safety Lock, have since 2020. I can send you the registration documents within the hour. Long pause. That's going to create some complications, I imagine it will. What do you want, Rod? A conversation. Once your legal team reviews the facts. I sent the documents, original patent registration, LLC formation papers, development logs proving I'd created the core technology in my home workshop before ever integrating it into Whitfield systems. Then I called Dana. Rod. What's wrong? Your husband fired me today. Silence. Long silence. That's not. He said the board decided. Rod, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Dana. What are you going to do? I looked out the kitchen window at Brady's old basketball hoop, the one I'd installed when he was 12, back when Linda was still trying experimental treatments, and we all believed everything would work out. I'm going to protect what's mine. What does that mean? It means your husband doesn't own Safety Lock. Never did. Another silence. Longer this time. Rod, please don't do anything that's going to hurt the family. The family? Dana, your husband just threw me away like garbage. What family? You know what I mean? Yeah, I said. I do. Monday morning, 9:45. I was at Murphy's Diner 3 blocks from my house, eating eggs and reading the sports page. At 10:20, my phone started buzzing. Garrett Whitfield. Missed call, Garrett Whitfield. Missed call. David Morris. Missed call. Unknown number. Missed call. I didn't answer any of them, just watched the notifications stack up. By 11:15, the text started. Garrett, Rod, call me immediately. There's been a misunderstanding. Garrett, this is serious. We need to talk. David Morris. Mr. Patterson, please contact our office regarding an urgent legal matter. Garrett. Whatever you think you're doing, it won't work. We have documentation that clearly establishes company ownership of all intellectual property developed during your tenure. I smiled at that one. Documentation. Garrett loved that word. At 11:52, a new text arrived. Different tone entirely. Mr. Patterson, this is Sarah Kim, Associate General Counsel at General Motors. We need to speak with you regarding the safety lock acquisition. Please call at your earliest convenience. I finished my eggs, left Murphy a $20 tip on a $12 breakfast, walked out into the sunshine. At 12:30, I called Sarah Kim. Mr. Patterson, thank you for reaching out. I've reviewed the documentation you provided. The patent registration is clear and unambiguous. Yes, ma'am. General Motors is very interested in safety lock technology. However, we're not interested in acquiring it from someone who doesn't legally own it. I understand. If you're open to discussion, I'd like to arrange a meeting. You and your legal representation, our acquisitions team. I'd welcome that conversation, Ms. Kim. Excellent. I'll have my assistant coordinate with your attorney. I hung up, stood on the sidewalk outside Murphy's. My phone buzzed again. Garrett, 18th missed call. I let it ring. Back at Whitfield Manufacturing, things were falling apart fast. I heard about it later from Jenny and from Brady, who'd been working part-time in the main office. Monday at 10:05, Garrett had been in Richard's old office, probably updating his LinkedIn profile for when he cashed out. Life was good. The GM deal was going to make him rich. Then David Morris burst through the door. We have a problem. What kind of problem? David handed him a certified letter from Tony Walsh's law firm. Garrett read it twice. This is impossible. Safety lock is our technology. We've been leveraging this asset across multiple verticals for years. It's not impossible. I checked. The patent registration is legitimate. Patterson filed it in 2020. That's impossible. Safety lock has been integrated into our core systems architecture for 4 years. It's foundational to our value proposition. Being in our systems doesn't mean we own it. Silence. The kind that fills a room when someone realizes they've made $1 million mistake. Did anyone ever get Rod to sign an IP assignment? Your father-in-law handled his employment agreement. Richard's agreement had a commission clause. It didn't transfer ownership of anything Rod created independently. More silence. So we'll argue he didn't create it independently. He used company resources. This is clearly a work-for-hire situation under our existing frameworks. Did he? Even more silence. At 2:15 Monday afternoon, General Motors formally suspended the safety lock acquisition pending resolution of intellectual property ownership questions. The $22 million deal was dead. At 3:45, Sarah Kim called Garrett directly. Mr. Whitfield, we've completed our review of the safety lock patent situation. Based on the documentation provided by Mr. Patterson, it appears Whitfield Manufacturing may have misrepresented its ownership of this technology. That's not accurate. Rod was our employee. He developed safety lock as part of our innovation pipeline. This is clearly within our operational parameters, Mr. Whitfield. We have the original patent registration. We have development logs showing the technology was created on personal equipment outside business hours before Mr. Patterson ever integrated it into your systems. We also have emails from you representing that Whitfield Manufacturing had full ownership and clear title to this intellectual property. Sarah, listen, there might be some technical discrepancies in the paperwork, but from a strategic perspective, General Motors doesn't do business with companies that misrepresent their assets. The acquisition is terminated. Our legal team will be in touch regarding potential securities violations. Click. That evening, the Whitfield Manufacturing Board convened an emergency meeting. 8 people around the conference table Richard had built himself in 1987, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Garrett sat at one end, David Morris beside him with a stack of legal documents. Walk us through this, said Margaret Hayes, the board chair and one of Richard's original partners. It's a misunderstanding. Rod's trying to leverage his termination into some kind of extortion scenario. This is clearly a disgruntled employee situation. It's not a misunderstanding, David said quietly. It's patent law. Based on what I've reviewed, Patterson has a legitimate claim. Margaret leaned forward. Let me understand. We've been selling this technology for 4 years, building our reputation on it, and we never actually owned it. Silence. And you fired the man who does own it to avoid paying him a commission you contractually owed? More silence. Is that about right, Garrett? Garrett's face had gone the color of old concrete. My phone rang at 7:15 that evening. I was on the back porch, watching Brady throw tennis balls for Rex, holding my second bourbon of the day. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Whitfield Manufacturing's main line. 4 rings, 5-6. I thought about 18 years, about every weekend I'd spent perfecting safety lock while Linda got sicker. About the funeral I'd almost missed because Garrett needed a client presentation. About the quarterly meetings where Garrett took credit for safety lock's performance, while I sat in the back, invisible. 7 rings. 8. I thought about Tuesday at 3:15, standing in that hallway, listening to them calculate my worth and decide I wasn't worth paying. 9 rings. I pressed decline. The next morning brought news. Brady called me at 6:15. Dad, you need to see this. The local paper's website had the story. Whitfield Manufacturing acquisition canceled, CEO under investigation. Garrett's finished. Dad, the board voted him out last night. Aunt Dana's pretty upset. Dana was my sister-in-law, but she was also Garrett's wife. This was going to tear the family apart. How are you holding up, son? Honestly, I'm kind of proud of you. Garrett's been treating you like crap for years. At 800, Tony called GM wants to buy Safety Lock from you directly. They're offering $8 million. I sat down hard. $8 million, clean purchase. No contingencies, no earnouts. Wire transfer within 48 hours of signing. I thought about Brady's college fund, about the mortgage Linda and I had been planning to pay off, about finally having enough to maybe take some time, figure out what came next. Tell them yes. The meeting with GM was Wednesday in Detroit. Their lawyers, their engineers, Sarah Kim, and 3 executives whose names I forgot immediately after shaking their hands. Tony sat beside me in a conference room with windows overlooking the Detroit River. The paperwork was straightforward. Asset purchase agreement, patent transfer documents, non-compete clause that Tony negotiated down from 5 years to 18 months. $8 million wire transfer within 48 hours. I signed where they told me to sign, initialed where they told me to initial. When it was done, Sarah Kim shook my hand. It's excellent technology, Mr. Patterson. We're going to put it to good use. I hope so. If you're ever interested in consulting work, we'd be very interested in having you. Thank you. I think I'm going to take some time first. Figure out what comes next. She smiled. You've earned it. The money hit my account Friday morning at 9:33. I was sitting at my kitchen table when the notification came through. $8 million after taxes and Tony's fee. I'd clear about 5 times $2 million. More money than my grandfather made in his entire life. Working those same machines I'd grown up around. I stared at the number for a long time, then I called Brady. Dad, what's up? You busy this weekend? Just studying. Why? Tigers are playing the Indians on Sunday. I thought maybe we could go. Pause. Brady and I hadn't been to a baseball game together since middle school, before Linda got sick, before everything got complicated. You serious? Dead serious. I'll pick you up Saturday morning. We can drive up to Detroit, stay downtown, make a weekend of it. Another pause. Dad, what's going on? Are you okay? I'm better than okay, son. I have some time now. Don't want to waste any more of it. Yeah, Brady said, and his voice sounded different, lighter. Yeah, that sounds great. See you Saturday. See you Saturday, Dad. I hung up, sat there for a while. Rex came over and put his big head on my knee, tail wagging like maybe he understood something had changed. $522 million a weekend with my son, a dog who was always happy to see me. Not a bad Friday. The story about Whitfield Manufacturing ran in the Sunday paper. Jenny Walsh sent me the link. The company was filing for Chapter 11, laying off 40% of its workforce. The board had accepted Garrett's resignation. There was talk of a buyout, maybe saving some of the jobs. I thought about calling Garrett, telling him I understood how it felt to have your whole life pulled out from under you in an afternoon. I didn't, though. Some lessons you have to learn the hard way. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Margaret Hayes. Rod, I know this is awkward, but we're looking at restructuring options. Would you consider coming back as interim CEO? I appreciate the offer, Margaret. I really do. The board realizes we made a mistake. We want to make it right. Some things can't be made right, but they can be learned from. What does that mean? It means I'm starting my own company. Patterson Engineering. If you're interested in licensing safety lock technology for your restructured operations, we can talk. You do that? Family's family, Margaret, but business is business. She laughed the first time I'd heard her laugh in months. I think Richard would be proud of you, Rod. I hope so. I'm writing this 6 months later. Brady's finishing his freshman year at Ohio State, engineering program, full scholarship, but I set up a fund anyway. Rex is getting gray around the muzzle, but still meets me at the door every night like I'm the most important person in the world. Patterson Engineering has 15 employees now, all veterans, all people who understand that quality work matters. We've licensed Safety Lock to 3 companies, including the restructured Whitfield Manufacturing under new management. Garrett moved to California. I heard he got a job with a consulting firm, entry-level position. Starting over at 38 isn't easy, but it's not impossible. Dana and I still talk. Sunday dinners aren't the same, but family finds a way. Sometimes justice doesn't announce itself with speeches or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it just files the right paperwork, waits patiently, and lets arrogant people destroy themselves. Garrett thought firing me would eliminate a problem, clear his path to $22 million. What he didn't understand was that I'd spent 18 years learning how to build things that last, relationships that matter, documentation that holds up, technology that actually works. He thought I lacked vision. Turns out I just had a longer timeline than he did. Listen, if you've ever been the guy who does the real work while someone else takes the credit, if you've ever been told you don't understand the big picture by someone who's never actually built anything, if you've ever watched some NBA hotshot talk about optimization while you're the one keeping the lights on, this one's for you. Document everything. Know your worth. And remember that patience isn't the same thing as weakness. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people who think they're smarter than you prove they're not. The system works when you work the system right. Your time will come. And when it does, make sure you're ready, because when arrogance meets preparation, preparation wins every single time.